Have you ever wondered why you can push through incredible challenges when your back is against the wall, yet somehow struggle with the simplest daily disciplines when life feels comfortable? You're not weak or broken. You've just been taught that discipline comes from willpower and motivation, when the truth is far more strategic. Society tells you to rely on feelings and force yourself through resistance. But what if I told you that the masters of power throughout history knew something completely different? What if discipline isn't about fighting yourself at all, but about understanding the deeper game of human nature, including your own? The answer lies in one of history's most controversial political minds. And once you see what he discovered, your relationship with self-control will never be the same. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." He understood that lasting power, including power over yourself, comes not from brute force, but from strategic thinking about human nature's predictable patterns. This video is for you if you've started countless habits only to abandon them weeks later. If you feel like you're constantly fighting an internal war with yourself, if you're tired of relying on motivation that comes and goes, you're ready to understand the real game being played. Here's what's really happening when you struggle with discipline. You've been treating yourself like you're one unified person making rational decisions. But Machiavelli understood something profound. We're all multiple selves with competing interests, and skilled leaders learn to manage these different aspects strategically. Think about it. There's the version of you that sets the alarm for 5 a.m. with genuine intention, and there's the version of you at 5 a.m. who genuinely wants 5 more minutes of sleep. Both are real. Both have legitimate needs. But you've been taught to see this as weakness rather than recognizing it as the fundamental challenge of self-leadership. Most people approach discipline like a civil war, trying to crush one part of themselves in favor of another. But internal conflict isn't a bug in your system, it's a feature. The question isn't how to eliminate these competing interests, but how to govern them skillfully. Your undisciplined behaviors aren't random failures. They're strategic responses from parts of yourself that feel unheard or threatened. The procrastinating part isn't lazy. It's protecting you from potential failure. The comfort-seeking part isn't weak. It's trying to ensure your resources don't get depleted. The instant gratification part isn't selfish. It's responding to uncertainty by securing pleasure when it can. Society tells you to just do it and push through resistance. But Machiavelli understood that sustainable power never comes from suppression. It comes from integration. When you rule through force alone, you create rebellion. When you rule through indulgence alone, you create chaos. But strategic understanding creates loyalty. Think about the last time you successfully maintained discipline. I bet it wasn't pure willpower. It was probably because you found alignment, maybe exercise that helped you feel confident and relieved stress, and gave you social connection. That's Machiavellian discipline, serving multiple internal constituencies simultaneously. Once you stop fighting yourself and start leading yourself strategically, the energy from internal warfare gets redirected toward actual progress. Every part of you, even the ones that seem sabotaging, has intelligence and legitimate concerns that can become allies in your transformation. Machiavelli's core insight was understanding the nature of men, predictable behavior patterns driven by self-interest and security. Applied to personal discipline, this transforms everything. Traditional discipline says, force yourself to do what you don't want to do. Machiavellian discipline asks, how do I create conditions where doing the disciplined thing becomes the most attractive option for all parts of myself? When Machiavelli wrote about fear and love, He said it's better to be both, but if you choose one, choose fear because it's more reliable. But you must avoid being hated at all costs. Applied internally, your systems need consequences, fear, and rewards. Love, but never self-hatred. When discipline creates self-criticism or constant deprivation, you create internal rebellion. Machiavelli also understood the lion and the fox. Leaders need both strength and cunning. Your discipline needs both. The lion is decisive action and following through under pressure. The fox is strategic intelligence, reading situations, adapting approaches, finding creative solutions rather than just pushing through. Most people develop the lion, but neglect the fox, making them brittle. One disruption and their whole system collapses. But combine both, and you become anti-fragile. Obstacles become opportunities to demonstrate strategic flexibility while maintaining core commitments. This connects to Machiavelli's concept of virtue, effectiveness in achieving objectives regardless of changing circumstances. Your discipline needs this adaptability. It's not about rigid consistency. It's about consistent adaptability toward your goals. If this is making sense to you, subscribe to the channel. When you miss a workout, instead of self-criticism, you become strategically curious. What conditions led to this? What does this tell me about my system? How can I adjust to make success more likely? This isn't making excuses, it's strategic intelligence. The breakthrough, lasting discipline isn't about overpowering yourself. It's about becoming the kind of internal leader that different parts of yourself genuinely want to follow. Someone who listens to legitimate concerns, adapts based on what's working, creates systems serving multiple needs. Here's the advanced insight. Machiavelli understood that perception shapes reality. When you consistently follow through on commitments to yourself, you build internal authority. Each time you do what you said you'd do, you prove you're trustworthy with important things. But most people sabotage themselves by making huge commitments they can't keep, then concluding they lack discipline. Smart leaders build authority gradually through achievable victories, demonstrating competence. Start with commitments so small that keeping them feels inevitable. Then expand from that foundation. This creates strategic identity change. Your brain constantly predicts what you'll do based on past behavior. Consistent small victories make your brain predict success, making action feel natural rather than forced. Instead of rigid habits, create discipline protocols. Flexible systems acknowledging life's variability while maintaining core commitments. A rigid habit says, gym at 6 a.m. every day. A protocol says, I will move my body meaningfully every day, with multiple backup options. This isn't lowering standards, it's raising strategic intelligence. You're creating anti-fragility. When obstacles arise, instead of system breakdown, you adapt and continue. This manages the psychology of success and failure. Obstacles become opportunities to demonstrate adaptability while maintaining commitment. The person you become through strategic adaptability is more powerful than the person you become through rigid rule following. You're developing what Machiavelli would call the art of war, strategic thinking to navigate competing interests and changing circumstances. Here's the complete reframe. Discipline isn't your burden. It's your pathway to internal sovereignty. Not sovereignty through controlling every impulse, but through strategic leadership of your own complexity. 6 months from now, you wake up because you've created a morning serving multiple aspects of your nature. Obstacles don't feel like failures. They feel like exciting, problem-solving opportunities. You approach challenges with strategic curiosity rather than grim determination. This version of you has what Machiavelli called the respect of the people, except the people are different aspects of your nature. The ambitious part respects your strategic thinking. The cautious part respects your planning. The playful part respects your creative solutions. The rebellious part respects your refusal to follow rigid external rules. You become someone others see as naturally disciplined, but you know the truth. It's skilled. It's strategic. It's centuries-old leadership wisdom applied to governing yourself. This approach becomes a model for everything else. In relationships, you stop trying to change people and start creating conditions where their better nature emerges. In career, you think strategically about creating value aligned with your strengths. In personal growth, you leverage limitations as sources of unique capability. You don't rely on motivation because you've created alignment. You don't force through willpower because you've designed systems making good choices natural. You're not perfectly consistent because strategic adaptation is more powerful than rigidity. Most importantly, you have genuine internal authority. When you speak to yourself about what needs doing, you listen, not from fear, but from respect for your strategic wisdom. You've become a leader worth following, even by yourself. The beautiful paradox: the more skillfully you lead yourself, the less effortful discipline becomes. Not avoiding hard things, but approaching them with intelligence that makes them manageable and meaningful. What's one area where you've been forcing discipline through willpower instead of developing strategic leadership? Share it using the phrase, "ready to govern." And let's build a community understanding that true strength comes from leading yourself with wisdom. You already have everything needed to master discipline forever. You don't need more willpower or better genetics. You need strategic thinking applied to your nature. Stop being a Civil War general fighting yourself and start being a wise ruler governing yourself. The path to lasting discipline isn't through force. It's through leadership principles applied to your internal kingdom. Once you master this, everything else becomes not just possible, but inevitable.